what is stem cell? There's all kinds of stem cells, and including the embryonic stem cell from like
Right.
the fetus, right? So now you're looking at, like abortions, right? So we don't
Mm,
ethically we don't touch that tissue, but there are
right.
countries that actually get involved with that. So
Oh.
yeah, so the problem with that is that when you start looking at regenerative medicine and you start looking at these cells that have these DNAs and chromosomes, you got to be careful because now you're going into the world of tumor formation. You don't know what it may change into. You don't know. So that's why this field is it's so new. So mesenchymal stem cell itself,
Mm,
there's a lot of research behind that, from all the way from cardiac tissue, from connective tissue and pancreas. There's a lot of good stuff on it.
mhm,
But the thing is that they don't know what's really going on. They know that it's supposed to differentiate the cell, differentiate into the target tissue. That's theory, right? It changes into it. But
mhm,
if you look at basic biology, just biology and the actual chromosome and knowing about the codes. So when you think about like this thing called mitosis, when these cells divide and turn into like these daughter cells, and then
mhm,
these things are like adult stem cells, and they make these other cells. When you look at those cells, you're asking yourself, how does that cell with its millions of codes that go and make something like a tissue of ligament, tendon, how does the other tissue know exactly your chromosome code and turn into that particular tissue? So
wow.
then you have to think of there's no way possible. So what you have to your next step is what it's signaling. So it's about the signal. So it's the actual what they call the
Oh,
EVs, extracellular vesicles, like the bioactive biomolecules. These little signals. Like you hear these buzzwords like exosomes, or you hear these these kind of like these growth factors, right? But these are like these
mhm,
EVs. So think about like it's basically exosome is like a carrier, and what's inside
mhm,
there are like little messages. Messages are like cytokines or microRNA, but they don't have a nucleus, not a DNA or chromosome. So it's just signals.
mm,
So when this cell goes next to your target cell and next to that cell, it goes to a thing called a paracrine effect. So that's the cell to cell
mm,
signaling. So we heard of endocrine system, right? Well, that's basically a
right.
long distance. These cells come along, they signal your organs to do things. Well, then you take the closer one with the paracrine, and that's closer, and that's cell to cell
Mm,
communication. So you take the target tissue, which is the target tissue here. Let's say it's your tendon, and it's got injury, but it's not doing the regenerative healing process. So then you need
mm,
a signal, or you need a signal say, hey, turn on to generate new tissue. So then, because of this, we need something young, vibrant that's coming from the umbilical cord, orange jelly, and
oh,
it comes down here and it attaches there and it signals, wake up. So now it signals, all right, let's go, let's turn on. So that's what this is all about. It's signaling.
wow.
They call it cell-free, regenerative medicine.
It's time for a quick little update. A few months ago, 2.5% of you who are watching this content were subscribed to this channel. I'm so grateful to you. You helped us move it to 20%. However, if we do the math, that still leaves us 80% of you have not subscribed. Please help me change that. Go ahead and press that subscribe button. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the content. Hmm. So it's supporting the body's natural healing capacity
Yeah,
by
yeah, has
signaling.
yeah. So when people talk about I have live cells, live cells, live cells, more than likely, this is another thing that there's a myth out there. So when you look at like stem cell therapy and then how they do this delivery system, so there's a lab that does the actual like the process of taking the Wharton's jelly from the umbilical cord. Right? You take the Wharton's jelly and you extract the mesenchymal stem cell.
Mhm.
So when you get the mesenchymal stem cell, then you cryo it, meaning that you put it into a like a nitrogen preserve and less than like negative 66 degrees, and you keep it there so you can have that livelihood after you defrost it. Well, it gets shipped to you at the clinic from wherever that distance is. Could be 1,000 miles, right? So when it comes to you, it's in cryopreserve. So now you have to go through a defrosting system. The problem with defrosting is
Right.
that you have to do a very extensive step. It's like 10 degrees notched down, and it's a long process. So
Mm.
what some of these people that don't have the time for this long process to defrost it back into a gelatinous liquid state, they just put it in the palm of their hand, and then they do what they call a shock thaw. Well, a shock thaw, believe it or not,
Wow.
it kills the cells. When you kill the cells, now it was probably alive when they cryoed it, but now it's dead. But here's the thing, it still works. So it's not about the living cells, it's about the secretion of those cells, those EVs, the signalers. They're in there. And that's what's
Wow.
important. So that's why people, when they go through stem cell therapy, the cells are dead, but the signals are still there, and it gets down there and it signals existing
Mm.
tissue. So that's the wonderful thing about this is that people are looking at live cells and these number cells. No, it's about the EVs. It's about the secretory, the secret, what's secreting out to that EVs to signal your existing tissue to do what it's supposed to do.
Wow. What an amazing, like, miraculous body. Do you know what I mean? That when you look at the biology and the chemistry and what's happening inside of us, it's like it's pretty miraculous actually. And
Oh,
we
it's
get signal.
amazing.
It's like, wow, what a world. I mean, talk about, the universe is massive, but how about the internal universe? Like, wow. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this content, check out what's coming up next right over here. Thank you.